And we are live. What's going on, YouTube Live? It's your boy, Billy Rowe. I want to welcome you to the first row on this snowy day in Utah, Wednesday. But if it is Wednesday, you should already know what it is. It's time for your Wednesday word. That's Wednesday word. Jumping straight into it. Tonight's topic is how to build a healthy life story. So, as with every topic that I come up with, every title, I always like to explain what I mean by the title. So, what do I mean by how to build a healthy life story? Really, in all honesty, this is a second rendition of a Wednesday word that I did about 2 years ago called "Our Stories Become Our Truths." And so, how to build a healthy life story really is our stories becomes our truth 2.0 with the new format of the Wednesday word. A couple of tools for you tonight. But what do I mean about building that healthy life story? Really, it's about the stories that we tell ourselves, the content that we pour into the story of our lives, how that overall impacts who we are and or who we may veer to become or seek to become. So when I talk about how to build a healthy life story, I'm really talking about how to intentionally build a path that is designed for you to achieve the healthy balance in life, whether that's success in the workplace, whether that's success in your family, in relationships, in friendships, or even in the time that you spend by yourself. How to find that healthy balance and how to really orchestrate, I guess would be a better word, that healthy balance. So that way, when you are actually moving through your life, it's something that is healthy and uplifting and nurturing to you versus something that is draining, depressing, and zaps the life out of you. So tonight I came up with about 4 or 5 tools that I want to share with you on how to build a healthy life story. Hopefully these tools resonate with you, but here we go. The very first tool that I came up with in regards to building a healthy life story was understand the format of a story. Understand that every story that I know of, known to man, has a beginning, it has a middle, it typically has a climax, and then it has at some point an inevitable end. Even if it's to be continued, the ending of that particular saga of the story is the end of that story, later to be continued at another date. So why is understanding the format of the story important? If we're talking about building a healthy life story, you have to understand that there's going to be formats to that. You're going to have the beginning. The beginning is you might lack certain knowledges or certain understanding or knowledge and wisdom in the areas of your life that you really need to have, we're going to call it extra fortified with healthy and nutrient rich content. Whether that may be when you're in school, I mean, from primary school to college, whether your after school activities or your outside of work activities that you're doing, there's that beginning. And though you may start from a place with a lack of understanding or a lack of competency of what you need in order to maintain a healthy balance, it is good to know that, hey, this is the beginning and I'm going to give myself a little bit of grace, a little bit of a wiggle room because I am still learning. Does that mean that you're reckless with your actions? No. But what it does mean is that you are able to operate in a greater sense of forgiveness for yourself, which is going to allow you to continue to move forward in things in life and hopefully seek out additional healthy activities and healthy information to bring into the middle of your story. So then you're in the middle of your story. So let's say right now I'm in the middle of my overall life story. I'm in my late 30s. Kind of have my career established, have kids, been married, separated, like all these different things have taken place. But now I'm in the middle. And there's some things that happen in the middle of the story that the character probably gets a couple of insights into, okay, well, these are the things that worked in the beginning. These are the things that didn't work in the beginning. I don't know if there's anybody watching live, but if you're watching live or if you're watching via the replay, I'm sure there's some things you can think of that did work for you in the beginning that don't work today. And then there's things that you can think that didn't work for you in the beginning and you're not even going to try them today because they didn't work so bad that they cost you too much and you're just not willing to pay that price again. So that's the middle of the story. Then you get to the climax. Fortunately, I don't feel like at this point in life I've reached the climax. There's still a lot of work to do, a lot of growth to be had, a lot of growth to experience. Hey, what's going on, Bob McKinley? Hey, good show last night. But you get to the climax, and the climax is like the buildup, like everything is hinging on this moment. If we're going to go to the Marvel universe, you know, whether we save the world or not is kind of hinged in this moment. And when we're dealing with understanding the format of a story and relating that to a healthy life story for ourselves, we feel like we come to the climax a lot more frequently than probably we actually do. And so the understanding of what the climax is really so that you understand that every situation that comes up that may feel like the end of the world, that may feel like a crisis, that may feel overwhelming, understand that that may not actually be the climax. And when you do hit the climax, I'm sure you'll understand what it is, because that'll be the thing that you don't look back at and say, well, wow, it wasn't, you'll always look back, I'm sorry, and you say, well, at least it's not that. So, or if you're in the healthy lifestyle circuit or the healthy story line, you're like, hey, that was still not bigger than this. And then lastly, inevitably, we have an end. And Bob, you'll attest to this. As far as the ending of our story, if we're looking at a healthy life story, the ending of our story should be something that we are thinking about legacy. What legacy are we going to leave behind? Almost like any author that writes a book, they have a specific objective that they want to get to the reader at the time when they're reading. Like by the beginning of this book, I want them to invest in character A, B, and C. By the end of this book, when we lose character B, I want them to feel an emotional loss. And I want them to bring these emotional lessons with them. So the same way that an author will write a book like that, that is the same way we should be writing our healthy life story, is that at the end of our lives, at the end of our story, what is the emotional impact? What is the tangible, even though we may not see it, the tangible impact that we're leaving behind? Something that people feel, something that resonates with people, something that ripples through the time, that ripples through beyond the time that we spent in this healthy life story. So that's the very first tool. And I know it was a lot in that first tool. We got a lot to go through tonight, but that first tool is very, very important, is understanding the format of a story. And the reason why that's so important is because the next tool is focusing on one chapter at a time. You never pick up a book and see chapter 1 and all the book is in chapter 1 all the way to the end. You never see that. So the second tool is focus on one chapter at a time. When you're writing a book, if you're writing a healthy lifestyle, you're not going to say, okay, well, how can I do all the exercise that I need to do in order to lose all the weight that I want to lose in one day? You're not going to be able to do that. You're going to have to understand that there's chapters. There's chapter 1, realizing that you need to exercise. It's important to keep your body in shape and keep your body functioning. So that's chapter 1, and understanding that you start to hash out the things of why is this important to me, and what is this going to benefit me, because exercise is not always fun. Sometimes you really just don't want to do it. And so what is the benefit going to be that drives me to do it in those days and those times when I don't want to do it? Now, once you have that baseline, you have that foundation, now you're ready to move on to chapter 2. But you can't start the story in chapter 2. You have to start with chapter 1 in order to get the mindset, to get the mind fill, the mindscape ready to receive the next set of instructions in chapter 2. The challenge is that many of us want to write our healthy life stories. We want to write it from the end to the beginning, saying, okay, well, this is what I really want to be, and so I'm just going to write it backwards. But there's some things that you have to do in the beginning before you can even get to the future. So focus on chapter 1. And when you focus on chapter 1 and you kind of have a sense of where you want to go, but your focus is on chapter 1, now you're able to write better chronological order, in a better chronological order, the steps that you need to take to get there. For me, I know I need to stop eating so much ice cream. That's a step that I need to take. And then we'll move forward to step 2. So that's the second tool, is really just taking time to organize the parts, organize the chapters, and take it one chapter at a time, and put your focus and your intention on that one chapter so that you can knock that out and then move on. And you'll actually find in doing that, that having an understanding of what you wanted and what you've knocked out in chapter 1 in your healthy life story will enable you to bring those lessons into chapter 2. But if you don't do that, what will happen is there'll be some lessons you should have had in chapter 1 that you don't have, that you are not prepared for or equipped with, in order to utilize in chapter 2. So that's the second tool. The third tool is avoid over exaggeration. And there's a reason for this. The primary reason to avoid over exaggeration in your healthy life story is because over exaggeration, it can cause us to detach from our own story, where we start to see ourselves in third person and not in first person. So we are now no longer the main character. We're now the narrator of our story. We're no longer the author. We're the editor of our story. So because of that, over exaggeration is very important to avoid. Now that comes in two different forms. There is the over exaggeration of the positive, and there's the over exaggeration of the negative. In the sense of the positive, over exaggeration would be, I can't give you an example, I'm sorry, but as far as over exaggeration in a positive sense, what it causes for us is it causes the tipping of the scale into being delusional. So if it's like, hey, you know, the world is falling apart, the ceiling's falling in and it's hitting the ground and everything, and there's an earthquake, and I'm like, you know, it's a great day and there's suns in the sky and there's not a thing in the world that's wrong. That's an over exaggeration of the positive, and the delusion can actually cause me injury or bodily harm. So if we're going to really create a substantial and significant and sustainable healthy life story, then the thing is that we have to make sure that we don't over exaggerate into the positive. Know that, hey, you know, we can believe, we can dream, we can shoot for the stars and hit the stars. We can do all those things. However, when we are experiencing the turbulence and when we're experiencing the adversity, we have to also be real about that. Doesn't mean you have to get into the other over exaggeration of the negative side. It doesn't mean you have to be overly exaggerate. I don't know the word. Wow. Over exaggerate the negative. But what it does mean is that you can acknowledge the negative within reason. Because when you over exaggerate the negative, what tends to happen is we slide from a person, again, who is the author or the main character of the story, to a person who is now the victim. We are the person who we want the people to feel sorry for in the story. And it's hard to say you want to build a healthy life story if the whole story involves everybody having to feel sorry for you in order for you to be successful at the end. It just doesn't work. So over exaggeration is definitely an area that you want to avoid. Whether it's positive or negative. It's okay to be an optimist. It's okay to be a realist, but that over exaggeration of optimist where you're ignoring the things that are actually taking place and you're saying, you know, it doesn't matter, I'm a millionaire, and you're going and spending money that you don't have like you're a millionaire, yeah, that's going to be a problem at some point. So avoid that delusional nature, avoid that victim nature, and that's the over exaggeration of positive and negative. The fourth tool that I came up with in regards to how to build a healthy life story is intentionally be the author. And so what do I mean by that? A lot of times in my past, I'll say a lot of times in my past, I have shied away from leadership. And the reason I shied away from leadership a lot of times in the past, even though, I mean, even at a young age, I knew I was a leader, even though I knew that, was for a couple of reasons. There were some things, like I said in a previous show, I wanted to still get away with, and being a leader was going to bring me into a limelight that I didn't really want. But the second reason why was because if I'm not the leader of my own life, then it makes it very easy to blame other people. So this is why I say intentionally be the author. As the author of your healthy life story, you want the best for you. You want to be successful. You want to be maybe an influencer, maybe a leader, some kind of contributor to the overall greater picture. When you are intentionally the author, you get to write what that looks like. When you try to pull yourself out of that author role where you're writing the story and you start handing that and outsourcing that to other people, now you're at the mercy of who they say they want you to be. Now you're at the mercy of what they say you can do and what they say you can't do. So intentionally be the author, because what it does is it staves off that victim mentality and that ability to blame everybody else for the choices that you are pretty much making. And it keeps you, the main character, safe, because as the author, we don't want to write ourselves out of the story. This is our healthy story. So I want to be in this story for as long as I possibly can, be as successful and impactful as I possibly can, and have many of the joys and the happinesses that I feel like I deserve. And as the author, I get to choose what those are and purposefully go after those things and purposely pursue them. I got a couple things here in the comments. Normally I don't bring comments into from the chat during the Wednesday word, but it says stories make a major difference with helping to connect the dots. That's Bob McKinley. And then Brother Moses says, I'm shying away from leadership right now. 2 management roles opened up, and I won't even apply. And then it says, did we scare you last night? To Moses. So again, that's tool number 4, intentionally be the author. And realize, even if you try to not be the author and you think somebody else is writing your story for you, they're not writing your story. You're just aimlessly wandering through your story without a clear path. It's almost like setting out goals or setting out a plan or a strategy to achieve something. When you set those steps out completely in front of you, you lay them out simply and plain, that's when it becomes a lot easier to say, okay, well, I'm on step 3 because I wrote it out this way. But when you don't and you think you outsource it, people are busy writing their story. So it's hard for them to say, I'm going to take the time now to not only write my story, but I'm going to write your not successful, healthy life story. So that's tool number 4. And then the last tool, because I think this was probably one of the most powerful comments I made 2 years ago when I was doing Wednesday words. It's remember that our stories become our truths. So how to build a healthy life story. It's not just about how to build it. It's about why we build it. Why do we build the healthy life story? It's because our stories become our truth. And I have a quote here. Henry Ford said, whether you believe you can do a thing or not, you are right. And that is why it is so critical to build healthy life stories. It can be healthy life chapters, healthy life story, healthy life stories. But it's critical to build them because what it does is it establishes our belief in ourselves. Whether we believe we're good at doing interviews, if I'm like, oh, I'm a horrible father. I've had people actually tell me, Billy, you're a horrible father. You could do better. I've had people tell me that. But unfortunately for them, not for me, unfortunately for them, I didn't outsource my authorship. I didn't outsource that to them to write the story about the type of father that I am. I realized that, hey, you know what, Billy, you're doing the best that you can with the knowledge that you have. You're gonna make some mistakes, and that's okay because I account for that in my story. However, you're gonna make some good choices, and I account for that in my story. And then the biggest thing I ask at the end of the day is how are you going to try to make sure that you're the best father possible to loving your sons and showing them what it is to be a man? That, for me, in my healthy life story, signifies success and not failure. So as long as I'm staying on that path, I'm realizing that story eventually and inevitably becomes my truth. And the things that you believe about yourself, good, bad, indifferent, those inevitably become your truths because we replay those things in our minds over and over and over again. We make a mistake and then we beat ourselves up. How could I be so stupid? How could I be so dumb? I'm such an idiot. That story is going to become your truth. You'll continue to make the same mistakes. You'll continue to make the same bad decisions or inappropriate decisions or whatever it may be. You'll continue to do those things because that is the story that you have decided to allow to become your truth. So the last tool being, remember that our stories become our truth. So really quick, I want to go over the 4 tools again for you. The first tool is understand the format of your story. The second tool is focus on one chapter at a time. The third tool is avoid over exaggeration. The fourth tool is intentionally be the author. And the fifth tool is remember that our stories become our truth. So as always with the Wednesday Word, I like to share a personal story that kind of got me thinking about the topic. And it was really interesting coming up with this because I was between a couple of different stories. But I ended up landing on a story that I shared last night from a Facebook memory. So I was looking at Facebook and the memory came up from March 12th, 2017. And what it showed me was 3 different images that I was looking at using for a logo for First Row. And inevitably, I asked, a group of my peers, hey, which one do you guys think is the best? And inevitably, I actually ended up using a completely different logo. Not inevitably, but I ended up using a completely different logo for the First Row. And it was actually presented to me by a very good friend of mine. He does graphic design. And he was like, hey, what do you think about this? I got an idea for you. What do you think about this? And I was like, I love it. It's simple, and that's what I'm rocking that one. That's it. And so I'm looking at the mindset that I was in when I was, originally creating this logo as, hey, I need something that just kind of brands the stories that I'm sharing, that brands the information that I'm sharing, brands the knowledge that I'm sharing, and kind of wraps it together. And unbeknownst to me, even though I was the author of this story and still am the author of this story, what I didn't realize is what I was doing was not just wrapping a bow around the content that I was developing, but I was actually starting the concept of, as business, what does this look like as a brand? As a business, what needs to take place? What are the components that are needed in order to create the business first row? And so I look at this 2 years later, and in the comment that I put, or the post that I put up, I said, 2 years ago, I was worried about what logo I was going to be using for the first row. 2 years later, I'm actually looking at who I'm bringing on as content developers and producers for the first row. Because again, first row is a network. It's not just a Billy Rowe thing. I was talking to somebody today, and I said, it's really cool that my name kind of like rolls with the cliche, the play on words of first row. Like, that's cool. That's kind of like destiny. I like that. However, it's not about just me and what I'm bringing as far as the visual content. It's about all the stories that are being brought to the surface through the first row. And so for me, I unintentionally, in 2 years ago, looking back at creating a simple logo, adding to my healthy life story, hey, you really want to be about this inspiration thing. You really want to create change. What type of person do you want to be? You want to be a leader. You want to be an inspirer. You want to be somebody who provokes thought. And asking those questions to myself made me become a much more intentional author over the past 2 years, to where now first row is something that has live content more than one time a week. It's very engaging content, different perspectives, different types of content, whether it's real estate, whether it's leadership, whether it's intersations, whether it's Wednesday Word. And it's now something that is growing even as we speak. It's growing. This week we have five live content pieces. That's the first time I've ever had 5 live content pieces in any week since I've been doing live video online, even going back to Facebook. So that just goes to show, this story goes to show how, when we start writing out what our story is, and as we write out those chapters and organize what we want to overall achieve in the end, it begins to act as a magnet. And 2 years ago, you probably wouldn't be able to tell me that I'd be on YouTube Live, I'd have a subscriber, or be on YouTube, I'd have a subscribership close to 100 or 400 subscribers and growing, and that I'd be looking at doing webinars and conferences and additional publishing. You probably couldn't tell me that that would all be going through an organization that I was setting up, based on something as simply starting a logo for it. So that is what I mean by how to build a healthy life story. Is that life story, the reason, or the why we build a healthy life story, is because that life story is going to act as a magnet, and it can draw us to the positive, or it can draw us to the negative, or it can simply draw us to the unknown if we're unsure about where we want to lead our paths to. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the Wednesday Word today. I was really fired up about this one because I want to do probably like once a month a 2.0 of my old Wednesday Words, to where we can re-engage with the content and kind of expand upon the original segment. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this look back and this upgraded look forward to the Our Stories Become Our Truth, now known as How to Build a Healthy Life Story. The remaining live shows that we have for this week on the Wednesday Word, on the first row, will be: number 1 is tomorrow, Thursday, March 14th at 7 p.m. It'll be a bonus intersation for this week. So last night's intersation was with Bob McKinley, Is Management for Me. Tomorrow's intersation is addressing the root causes of behaviors, and that's with Jennifer Chambers. And then we actually have a new segment that we're launching on Friday called The Game: How to Thrive in Corporate America. And that topic will be becoming irreplaceable in today's workplace. That's also with Antoine Wade of Black Heights and myself, Billy Rowe, representing First Row. So, and that's at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on March 15th, Friday. So I hope you guys are able to tune in live to those. I'm really looking forward to some engagement there. Next week, we'll also be having some Q&A, some live Q&A, where you can just shoot rapid fire questions at Billy Rowe, and I'll give you the best answer that I can. It may take me some time to think about it because I'm putting myself on the spot, but I'll be available for about 30 minutes for rapid fire live questions. So I haven't decided what day that will be, but be on the lookout for that. I just want to commit to it on video so that way it makes sure that I get it done. But other than that, I hope you guys have enjoyed the show. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. When you click the subscription button, you will see a bell. Click that bell so you can be notified when the First Row goes live. It may be me, it may be Key, it may be Bob, it may be Terilyn, it may be Moses. We don't know who it might be, but they will be live. And if it's live, you definitely want to get involved and engage with that content. But other than that, I thank you guys for watching. Don't forget also, I'm sorry, I just remembered, don't forget, we have, today's the 13th, so we have about 18 more days left to be able to pre-order Modern Day Mentor by author Damian K. Rowe. If you are interested in that, he has extended the pre-order offer for First Row viewers. It's a First Row viewer exclusive. You can send an email to moderndaymentor@firstrow.com. I'm going to put that actually into the chat so you can see it, and it will be in the description. One moment. At firstrow.com. There you go. So don't forget to send an email to request a pre-order form there. And when you make your payment, please put First Row into the memo of the payment, so that way he knows to give you the First Row price for the extended promotion. So other than that, I hope you guys have enjoyed the live show. Bruce, you're never too late. You can always catch the replay. I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. I also hope to see you guys tomorrow for tomorrow's bonus intersession with Jennifer Chambers. She's a fun young lady to speak with, one of my really good friends. I hope you guys are able to tune into that. Until the next time that I see you guys, I appreciate you for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow on the First Row. One love, peace, and God bless.